for manicure procedure. First of all, your table setup. Fold a small towel in three or roll it up into a roll, and then drape a larger towel, another small towel actually, over top of it, and generally you would cover that with, or often, a Gibson or a paper towel. You set up the rest of your supplies and implements on either a towel or a half Gibson, and placing them in the order that you'll use them in. You have access to hot water in your room. You can wait until you're ready to do the hot water, but generally it's acceptable to have your water in a bowl already with your antibacterial soap or whatever product that the spa that you're using is in the water already. You have your client wash their hands or alternately use a hand sanitizer for both of you. Previous to this, you will already have filled out your client health record and your manicure slash pedicure release. If you do not have a barbicide on your table where you your client can see that you're using proper sanitation procedures, at this point you would then, in front of your client, spray all of your equipment with the alcohol so that they can see that you're using proper sanitation procedures. You'd roll up your client's sleeves, and you're going to assist them in removing any jewelry and placing them in a small dish or on a towel. And then as far as the procedure is concerned, we begin with the client's left hand, with any polish that they may have with polish remover and cotton balls. In this case, the client has no polish on her hands, but she may have oil, so we'll just clean them anyways. Then we're going to apply cuticle solvent. For sanitary reasons, you can have your cuticle solvent in a little dish, or in some places it's acceptable to apply it directly to the nails, as long as you do not touch the bottle at any time to the client's nail surface. You'll wrap your orange wood stick with cotton and dip it in the cuticle solvent and put it around the nail. Also apply the cuticle solvent to any noticeable smoke stains or stains. Try not to double dip. If you can get away with it, to just use one cotton and put all of your cuticle remover on that cotton, make it through one hand, and then change the cotton. In this case, we're using a product in a dish, so it's going to be thrown away afterwards, so it's not going to be double dipped into. There's not going to be any cross-contamination with it. But for exam purposes especially, then try to just use one cotton, discard that cotton, and use another one. So then, now we're going to shape the nail. So we're using an emery board. You first of all very important to ask the client which nail shape they would like. How do you like your nail shaped?
Usually oval shaped.
Oval shaped. Generally, the shapes that are common is oval, square, or what I call squoval, which is basically a square nail with the corners rounded off. And make sure that you know what length the client wants their nails. If they have one nail that's broken or shorter than other nails, ask them if they want all of the nails taken to that point, or if they just want the rest of them shaped and they want to allow that one to grow out. So the procedure for shaping the nail: you hold your file on one edge, and you're going to use 3 strokes from each corner: a short, a longer, and a longest. A short, a longer, purpose of filing the nail this way is because you want to work with the cell layers. Of course, nails are dead keratin cells, and what you don't want to do is be roughing them up and fluffing the edge up. That's how you get nails that tear and rip back or peel, because the edges are left all almost fuzzy, and then water and such can get underneath into the surface of the nail and it will split. So you're never going to work your file back and forth because that damages the nail. You also want to file the nails while they're dry, because some people have very thin nails, and if you file them if they're wet, they may just peel or split right off. So we're going to reapply the cuticle solvent. And we're going to push back the cuticles with the pumice stone. What you're doing here is trying to lift any pterygium or overgrown cuticle from the nail. You're not applying a whole lot of pressure. You can just let the stone do its work and the cuticle solvent. The new solvents generally have alpha hydroxy acids and things like that in it that really do a really good job of dissolving most of that old dead cuticle anyways, and it doesn't leave really a lot of work for the esthetician to do anymore. Okay, at this point we're going to place the hand into the manicure bowl to soak, and we're going to cover it with a cloth to keep it warm. Now we'll move on to the right hand and we'll do hand. You're going to remove the client's left hand from the bowl, and you're going to give them a little scrub off to make sure that you get any excess off there. You're going to place it in a towel and get the client's right hand into the bowl and cover it. Thoroughly dry the client's hand, pushing back the cuticles a little bit as you go. This is also good for circulation. I generally refold the towel and put it under the client's elbow at this point because it's just a nice comfort. Make sure you've dried in between the fingers, and then we're going to use a soft cuticle pusher to push back the cuticles just gently. So at this point you're going to use your cuticle nippers. Just look like this. You hold them in your hand, cupping them. You have another finger on the top for control. What you're doing is you're going to remove any excess cuticle or pterygium off the nail. So you place the cuticle nipper on the nail, on the area where there is excess. You push down, which should roll the cuticle up into the cutter, and then you trim. And what you're trying to do is make one smooth, if you can. If they've got a lot of cuticle, you can try to make one smooth piece in one piece, because you don't want to leave little edges, because then you're going to cause little tears in the cuticle. Now this is not using excessive pressure, just light pressure, and once you start using the tool, you'll see how the cuticle will pop right up into the blade, and then you just have to squeeze it to cut it off. On elderly clients, they have very thin skin. Use caution when cutting their cuticles, or anybody who has very thin skin. Use caution when cutting their cuticles, because you don't want to nip them. If you do happen to nip someone, you can have a product on hand that will stop bleeding if they do start to bleed. It's called styptic, or styptic drops. You're only trimming cuticle when it's absolutely necessary. If someone has very nice cuticles, they don't have a whole lot of overgrowth, and the cuticle looks nice and healthy, it's not necessary then to trim their cuticles. We're going to clean underneath the edge of the nail to make sure it's nice and clean, using a free edge tool or your orange wood stick. And we're going to set this hand now aside and complete the same process on the right hand. So we're going to, first of all, give it a little scrub. Dry the hand off. You can set your bowl aside. You do not need it any longer. And place a towel under their elbow. Again, we're going to make sure that the cuticle is well pushed back. We're not using excessive force here. You don't actually want to separate the cuticle from the nail, because that's your body's line of defense. What you want to do is just push it back and get any excess or overgrowth of the cuticle off. Again, that's called pterygium. The reason you want to get the excess overgrowth off of the nail bed is because it's going to affect the adherence of your polish, as well as if the cuticle is attaching to the nail and growing up the side of the nail bed, that's when your cuticle is ripping and causing hangnails. When choosing a cuticle nipper, try them in your hand. Make sure that it feels comfortable in your hand, and that it has a smooth cut to it. If there's excess pterygium on the nail, then you just plant the nipper on the nail and use it to actually cut that pterygium right off the top of the nail. You lead with the point and you keep the back edge of the nipper up just slightly because you don't want to be recutting that same cuticle behind you. This time I'll use the orange wood stick, same procedure. You're going to recheck your work, and if there's any areas of the nail that still need a little bit of a file, you can go over that with your pumice or your Hindu stick and just remove any loose edges. The reason that you do it at this point with the pumice is because it will seal the nail versus the file will rough the nail up. Always work from the side to the center as well. Okay, at this point we would do a massage. So you're going to apply a generous amount of lotion to your client's hand and arm. I'll just get you to move your sleeve up further there. So you can use the massage of your choice, or the one that you were given in your pedicure procedure. The length of the massage is going to depend on how much work you've had to do on the fingernails. If someone had to do a lot of work on the fingernails to get them cleaned up, then that's going to cut into the amount of time that you have for massage. If someone has a generally good nail, then you have lots of time for massage. Your manicure should take approximately 45 minutes. Within that you have your setup and take down too. So you want to have time to have your client come in and get themselves settled. Most spa settings will book manicure in probably a 1 hour if it's a basic manicure. So then you have 15 minutes previous, by gently holding the client's hand, rotating their thumb 3 times each direction, and their wrist 3 times each direction, and rotating the elbow 3 times towards the body only. And you repeat the procedure on the right hand. At this point you're going to put the client's jewelry back on, and in some places you can settle the bill, or have them be prepared to settle the bill just so that they're not going to have to go into their purse and get everything out and ruin their polish at the same time. So now you're going to, using a polish remover and a cotton pad, you're going to remove any excess oil off of the plate that you may have placed on there from the massage cream. And now you're going to apply a base coat to all 10 nails, starting with the left hand and the baby finger. Just have the client relax their hand over top of yours.
And the funny hand.
What a base coat does is it helps the polish to adhere to the nail. They're set up to be adherent to the nail as well as to the polish. So a base coat is an important part of the final finishing, as well as the top coat is a harder enamel that seals and protects the polish color so that your polish lasts longer. You'd be amazed if you try polishing one hand without using the base coat and top coat, and then polish the other using a proper procedure, at how much longer your polish will last when you follow the proper procedure and use the products together as they're made to be used. While that's drying, you can then sanitize your implements. You can spray them down with alcohol. I prefer to keep my instruments in a barbicide so they go directly from my client back into the barbicide, and then they're in it for an adequate amount of time that they're fine for the next client. All of your other tools will either be disposable or have to go into a barbicide jar. You want to use an antibacterial soap as well as an alcohol or barbicide on them. So once the base coat is dry, you're going to apply 2 coats of polish of the client's choice. When you're applying polish, you're wanting to place the brush on the nail. You want to push the nail polish back towards the cuticle and then bring it back along the nail. You want to get it up to the cuticle, preferably not on the cuticle. If you happen to get it on the cuticle, then you can do a little bit of a cleanup later. Don't be discouraged with polish. It's something that you just have to keep on doing, and comes with practice. You want to try to avoid at any time during a manicure touching the client's nail with your finger, especially at the polish procedure point, because you'll have oil on your hands and that you don't want to transfer back onto the nail. But most importantly, for sanitation procedure, you don't want to be, you've cleaned and sanitized this client's nail, and you don't want to be putting something on it that could be coming off of your fingers from the table or anywhere like that. Also, you do not want to ever blow on a client's nails. It's just not very professional, and again, there's a factor of germs. by the time you get through both hands, the other hand will be ready to have the second coat done. Just tip the backs of the foot. My client has short nails. It's really hard to do a polish without getting polish on the end of the finger because the nail tends to run into the end of the finger, and when you're painting them, the brush tends to run off onto the finger. I'm just going to clean that up afterwards if that happens with a orange wood stick wrapped in cotton, or just with the orange wood stick itself with a little bit of polish remover on it. Again, with a short nail, it's always a little bit difficult too to make sure that your polish extends right to the end of the nail, because it's going to want to jump up over onto that finger. So make sure that you get that edge of that nail. So just let that dry for a moment. And then you just can get a little bit of polish on your orange wood stick and go around and make sure if there's any spots that aren't, any bits that are on the skin, you can just remove that with a little bit of polish and an orange wood stick. This is where it's really nice to have a pump dispenser for your alcohol and for your polish remover. Okay, at this point you're going to use your top coat. Again, beginning with the left hand, baby finger.